Hi, I'm Linton from Sewing Machines Plus, and we're going to do a quick overview on the control panel on our Sewtech industrial sewing machine. This one is our SW-K6-D4 compound feed machine. However, a lot of these operations will be the same on various models. So here we've just turned the machine on and it comes up basically like this. We're going to start from left to right and just run through the functions. So first of all is our back tacking start and end back tack. So what they are is when they're turned on, we'll just turn that on.
Start back tacking. Start back tacking. End back tacking. End back tacking.
So we've got that going forward, backward, forward. So when we start sewing, it's going to do forward, backward, forward to tie off the stitch or tie in the stitch. And at the end, forward, backward, forward to tie off the stitch. Now when we move to the double
start, double end back tacking.
That's basically just going to do it twice. And at the end, for a nice solid finish stitch. Now, turning them off means that we need to do that manually. So when we start sewing, we want to tie in our stitch and we'll just use the reverse. Or on some machines, it'll have to be manual reverse. So we would start sewing, a couple of stitches, back a couple of stitches, continue on, forward, backward, and now I'm going to go heel back for foot lift, heel back all the way for thread trim. Next function in line is our modes. So we're on free sewing at the moment, the top left. These other three.
One segment constant stitch sewing. Bar tacking. Several segment constant stitch sewing.
These three functions do pattern sewing, so they would do, for example, 20 stitches and stop. You would then lift the foot, would do another 20 stitches and stop, lift the foot, another 20 stitches and stop, and basically that's for doing repetitive, for example, pockets and things. We won't be using that, so we want it on
free sewing.
Free sewing. The next one is only relative to when those functions are turned on. The presser foot is the different positions of the foot. So when it's turned off, it will stop and we heel back on our pedal to lift and lower the foot. We can change that so
presser foot lift on after trimming. Presser foot lift on after stop sewing. Presser foot lift on after stop sewing and trimming.
And their functions
presser foot lift off after stop sewing and trimming.
They will cause the foot to, for example, every time you stop sewing, lift up automatically. And we just don't want that. It's not designed for standard work. We want to have full control over when we lift our presser foot by heel back function. Moving on, we've got the clamp, otherwise known as the nipper. So this little device here on some automatic machines, what this will do, if we look at the stitches I've been doing, we can't see a tail at the start of sewing. So what the nipper does is it hides that tail underneath the work. That's for, again, production work when you're continually doing the same sort of stitching over and over again and you don't look at the back of the work. So it's nice and quick, there's nothing to trim. However, it is quite messy, as you can see. It leaves a fairly messy underneath stitch. So what we'll do is we'll have that turned off.
Clamp off.
And it will leave the tail on the top of the work. So we go back in there and trim that off manually with scissors, but it's a lot neater the way it starts underneath. So that's our clamp function turned off. Means we're left with a tail on top of the work. Clamp function turned on.
Clamp on.
Hides our tail, but leaves a messy stitch at the back. For now, we'll turn that
Clamp
off.
off.
Trimming is obvious. At the moment we've been using it and trims every time.
Trimming off.
Scissors off mean that when we sew and heel back, we will then just pull our fabric out like an old-fashioned machine and trim our threads off. Now it's important to note that if we're not using the thread trimming function, that we have to be careful, as with all machines, to hold our threads back when we start sewing. Very important. If we don't hold our threads back, we really run the risk of tangling the threads underneath. So when we have tails, we need to hold those tails. We can't even stick it back under like this because that loose tail there could get caught. So once again, we're going to trim it. We're going to hold our threads back firmly as we start sewing. With trimming turned on, we don't have to worry because the machine is holding that bottom thread back for us, so we don't have to hold the threads. Moving on, we have a soft start function, which is relatively useless. It basically slows up the speed up curve, so when we put our foot flat to the floor, instead of it instantly going fast, it gradually increases to fast. However, you won't notice that. The human eye can't even see it, so fairly irrelative to us. Needle positions, it's currently set so it stops with the needle down. And the reason we do that is every time we stop sewing, the needle stays in the work. A, we don't lose our position as we juggle our work around. B, heel back halfway means we can turn the work with our needle in the work. And heel back all the way to trim. So that's our needle position. The other option is to have it stopping with the needle up, and that means it's just not quite as clever as far as turning the corners. I prefer to have the needle in the down position, and then it comes up when we heel back. Moving on is the needle
forward stitch correction. Forward stitch correction.
So this is sort of irrespective. It's basically a slight change in the distance of the forward length and the rear backward length, not relative to work. And the last and most simple here is speed control. Without doing anything, we go straight to our plus or minus.
Accelerate. Accelerate.
And it just sets our maximum speed. So these machines being direct drive, meaning the motor is built in here, are very easy to control the speed. So just by pressing the foot further or harder, obviously it goes faster, and you can start off nice and slow and go as fast as you want, but this caps the maximum speed.
Decelerate.
So at 1100, it's usually plenty fast enough for most customers. It goes right up to 2000 and something, so we normally set it at about 1100, just so the customer doesn't get a bit trigger happy and run too fast, but that's about it. The P is to get into programming. That's not really designed for the user, and S is to set any functions. The one other thing we didn't touch on is when we're using that, A and B at the start, C and D at the end, this is the number of stitches it goes forward or backwards. So we press it so it's flashing, and then plus. So now, and then set. So now at the start it'll do 3 forward, 3 back, instead of 2 forward, 2 back. That's the only difference. So I normally leave them at a basic 2 forward,
minus,
set, and that's it. Now, when we've got the settings the way we want them, in this case trim is on, we're in free sewing.
Double start off.
We've got our back tacking at the start and the finish turned off. Now every time we turn the machine off and on, it will hold those settings unless we physically change them. So that's the brief overview of most automatic machines with the built-in control panel.
Thank you.